Assalamualaikum and hi, my name is Muhammad Abi Ashraf bin Noor AZLI.
Hi, my name is Fatini.
Hi guys, I'm BAVANI NAGAPAN.
Hi, I'm Najwan.
Hello everyone, my name is SYUHADA binti SYAIFOL ANUAR.
Hi guys, my name is SYAMIMI. Welcome to Yeast TV. How are you guys feeling today? I hope you are having an amazing day today. So today, our group would like to talk about yeast. Yep, yeast. Firstly, let me introduce first about yeast. So, let's start. If you're making a recipe for cinnamon roll or French bread, yeast factor into the equation. Yeast is a required ingredient for all bread recipe. Here's the background of yeast. Yeast are fungi, living organisms found all around us or floating in the air. According to the producer Red Star Yeast, yeast made up of an egg-shaped cell and only visible through a microscope. They are fungi just like the mold found on blue cheese, mushroom, or even in antibiotics. However, yeast form in a different form than other fungi, which are typically composed of tubular chain of cells called Hepae. Yeast is found in small cluster or cell or as an individual cell. Much any of us. Yeast is a single cell organism which can be categorized as fungi phylum. It is about 1,500 species. Most of that belong to the Ascomycota phylum, but as it were a modest bunch toward the Basidiomycota phylum, yeast can be found in soil and on plant surface all through the world, and they flourish in sugary situations like fruit and flower nectar. Although there are hundreds of different types of Ascomycete yeast, Saccharomycete cerevisiae are often employed in baking of bread and making of beer and wine. Next, I will pass the session to ASHYRAF to tell you guys about principle of microorganism.
Alright, thank you Syamimi Amran for her good explanations about the yeast. Now, let's talk about the principle of microorganisms about the yeast. Let's go! Alright guys, first and foremost, yeast are eukaryotic microorganisms that may be found in the varieties of biological environments such as soil, water, air, plants, and food surface. The latter is likely the most significant habitat at this time, since they are actively assisting in the breakdown in the fermentation process of ripe foods. Because they have the necessary nutrients and substrates, yeast can take out their digestion and fermentation process activities throughout in these naturalistic environments. Other than that, the yeast, when it compares to the other two microbes, such as lactic acid bacteria, it is really did not require the huge amounts of nutrients. However, their growth is facilitated by the presence of the important components like fermentable amino acids, sugars, vitamins, minerals, and oxygens. In terms of morphologies, yeast can come in the varieties of shapes and size, with rounds, ellipsoidals, and oval being the most typical shapes. In fact, when we are inspecting the various shapes of yeast, microscopic observations is the initial steps in the identification process, followed by tests like microbiological and biochemical testings. I think that all for the explanations about the principle of microorganisms about the yeast. Next, for the next sessions, I will pass to the Najwan, which is he will explain about the principles of products about in the yeast. Let's go.
Thank you, ASHYRAF, for your great explanation of the principle of yeast as a microorganism. Now, we will move on to the principle of yeast as a product. Yeast's main use as a product is dependent on its ability to undergo fermentation. What is fermentation? Fermentation is a metabolic process that produces chemical changes in organic substrates through the action of enzymes. In biochemistry, it is narrowly defined as the extraction of energy from carbohydrates in the absence of oxygen. In fermentation, pyruvate, an end product of glycolysis, is reacted to NADH, a coenzyme, producing NAD+ and inorganic products such as ethanol, lactic acid, carbon dioxide, and hydrogen gas. There are three types of fermentations currently known, which are alcoholic fermentation, lactic acid fermentation, and acetic acid fermentation. Yeast's vital uses lies in its alcoholic fermentation process, where it produces ethanol as the main product and carbon dioxide as the byproduct. The former, the ethanol, is crucial in wine brewing, while the latter, carbon dioxide, is crucial in bread making. Baking and brewing yeast typically belong to different strains, cultivated to favor different characteristics. Baking yeast strains are more aggressive in order to carbonate dough in the shortest amount of time possible, while brewing yeast strains act more slowly but tend to produce fewer off flavors and tolerate higher alcohol concentrations. In beer brewing and wine making, the produced ethanol from alcoholic fermentation will act as an intoxicating agent that might induce drunkenness and disorientation. However, too much of it can also kill them. As yeast continues to grow and metabolize sugar, the accumulation of alcohol becomes toxic and eventually kills the cell. Most yeast strains can tolerate an alcohol concentration of 10% to 15% before being killed. This is why the percentage of alcohol in wines and beers is typically in this concentration range. In bread making, yeast is used as a living agent, where it converts the fermentable sugars present in dough into carbon dioxide gas. This causes the dough to expand or rise as gas forms pockets or bubbles. When the dough is baked, the yeast dies and the air pockets set, giving the baked product a soft and spongy texture. Thanks, that is all from me. I will be passing the torch to my friend Bavani. In this next session, you will be finding out about how commercial yeast is made.
Every time we make bread with baker yeast, we might wonder how the industry produces baker yeast. Let me explain to you the steps that were taken to produce baker yeast. Baker yeast, which is one of the main products in the preparation of bread bakers, is manufactured through the aerobic fermentation of selected strain of Saccharomyces cerevisiae according to their special qualities relating to the needs of the baking industry. The production of baker yeast includes the processes such as cultivations, fermentation, separation, rinsing, and pressure filtration. The most common raw material of baker yeast is molasses, which is a byproduct of sugar production due to its low cost and high content of sugar. After the dilution, clarification, and sterilization, the molasses, which is commonly referred to as mash or wort, is fed to the fermentation vessels with nutrients. The grown cells at the early stage of fermentations are transferred into a series of progressively large seed and semi-seed fermenters. At this stage, molasses, nutrients, and minerals are fed to the yeast at a controlled rate. At the end of the semi-seed fermentation, the content of the 10 wastewater treatment and utilization tank at about 5% solid is concentrated to about 18 to 22% solids. The concentrated yeast, which is called yeast cream is then washed with cold water and pumped to semi-seed yeast storage tank, where it is stored at 40 degrees Celsius until it is used to inoculate the commercial fermentation tanks. The commercial fermentations are the final steps in the process. After commercial fermentation, the yeast is pumped to the rotary drum filter and dewatered to a cake-like consistence with 30 to 33 yeast solid content. Depending on the market demands, the solid content of the yeast can be increased to 90 to 98% by drying and marketed as dry or instant liquid. I hope you guys understand the process that are carried out in baker yeast industry. Now I would like to pass the next section to Mimi SYUHADA. She will explain to us the application of yeast.
Thank you, Bavani, for your explanation. And hi guys! In this session, I will explain about the application of the yeast. Yeast can be applied in baking a bread because yeast reacts to oxygen and helps leaven bread or make it rise. In baking bread, they are combined with the liquid and sugar with the yeast to make dough rise. It also provides flavor, creating carbon dioxide in the dough. Yeast should thrive in a warm water temperature that is added to the dough. Besides that, yeast will begin to die with the temperature in 57 degrees Celsius or higher than that. And it is also effective in cold temperatures, but it is required for baking. Secondly, yeast is used in making alcoholic drinks such as brewing wine and beer of centuries to ferment of the mixture. Different kinds of yeast are used to make ale, lager, spirits, and wine. Yeast makes alcohol react with the sugars that naturally occur in these drinks, while non-alcohol drinks such as root beers and other soft drinks are used yeast also to add flavor, but the fermentation process was stopped before the drinks become alcoholic. Thirdly, yeast is the most recently used in the production of biofuels. That is because yeast turns sugar into ethanol, which can be used as a diesel substitute in vehicles. Their process should be identical to that in making beer or wine. In addition, yeast are used in the biofuels industry in a complex mediums such as corn starter, corn mash, and sugarcane. For sure, it can be served as nutrients to produce bioethanol. That complex media increases the difficulties for automate counting by using the bright field method due to the ions that have been in the sample. Lastly, yeast is also important in the human microbiome as probiotics. Microorganisms that have in the yeast as a well characterized as probiotics yeast often used to alleviate GI tract disorder. Several preclinical and clinical trials have demonstrated its efficiency as a probiotic. Many of the probiotic drinks available now use yeast as a supplement. A person who is vegetarian also uses yeast as a supplement due to low protein and vitamins amount in their normal diet. Thank you guys for lending your ears and watching on my session. Before this program ends, let's continue our last session with Fatini AZZAHRA.
As a conclusion, we know that yeast is a phylum of single-cell fungi, with the vast majority belong to the Ascomycota phylum, and only a few belong to the Basidiomycota phylum. Yeast are present in soils and on surface of plants. Next, we also know the principle of yeast that can carry out their metabolic and fermentation activities in this natural setting, because they have the necessary nutrients and substrates. Fermentation can be used in the food and drink industry. This is because yeast can transform glucose to carbon dioxide during the fermentation process. So, Yeast is an incredibly valuable tool in food production because of these two outputs. Other than that, we know how yeast produce step by step. It takes two preparations, which are preparation of the molasses and the preparation of culture. In addition, yeast has a wide range of applications, such as yeast can be used in bread baking because it reacts to oxygen and helps leaven or raise the bread. Second, yeast has been used to ferment the combination in the manufacturing of alcoholic beverages such as wine and beer for centuries. Third, yeast is the most recent addition to the biofuel industry. Eventually, yeast also functions as probiotic in humans' microbiome. Therefore, you can see that yeast is very important to humans because we require yeast to function in our daily life. I hope you guys gain new knowledge about yeast from this show. And don't forget to take care of yourself. That's all from me. Thank you.